Hi, good evening.
Hello, sir. Good evening. Welcome to Niyogi Books' Instagram Live session for this evening.
Uh-huh. So, can you listen to me?
We can hear you clearly, sir. If you're comfortable, shall we begin?
And see, my picture on the screen is
Yes, sir.
stable. It's not moving. Is it normal?
We can see and hear you clearly, sir. Both audio and video are coming through.
Okay, then it's fine. Yeah, go ahead.
Okay, sir. So let's begin. Good evening, friends. We're here this evening with Mr. Sanjeeva Pandey, a former Indian Forest Service officer and one of the founder members and who has worked for many years extensively with the Great Himalayan National Park. The book he has written, which is a delightful read, is the Great Himalayan National Park, and we will be talking about this book today. So a very warm welcome to you, Mr. Pandey. Thank you for being with us today, and we look forward to an interesting discussion.
Sure. Go ahead, please.
So my first question to you is, your efforts have led to the Great Himalayan National Park being included in the list of UNESCO World Heritage Sites. Could you tell us how this came about and why this is so significant?
See, this is a worldwide honor, for any site to be a member of UNESCO, and this is actually natural heritage site, right?
Yes.
And there are 10 criteria, and this is the 10th one. And the 10th criteria says that according to the biodiversity, as per the biodiversity values of a geographical area, the area has been denoted or inscribed as a World Heritage Site. So that means this is a recognition for the biodiversity values of the park. And then other thing is, once it is recognized worldwide, then usually people think that there will be a lot of tourism or something. So out here, it's opposite, in fact. This is actually very, very fragile Himalayan ecosystem. So this is exclusively for conservation. You know how many tourists they are there in a year out here? Less than 1,000. And we do not increase them.
Okay.
Right? And that is the main thing, in fact. Yeah. In case you start disturbing the site, then your fragile nature of the park gets disturbed. So this is for conservation of biological diversity for the posterity. And then there are many other things like you get extra weightage when you write a project for your park in case it is a World Heritage Site. Then this is yet another ring of protection. The world is looking at you. So you cannot be hanky-panky, okay, now I want to establish kind of a dam or road or something inside the park. You cannot do that. The whole world is looking at you. Yeah?
True.
Yeah, so that's the way it is, yeah.
Wonderful. No, thank you for explaining that. And also that increased tourism will have an adverse effect on the biodiversity and the environment of the park.
Yeah, that's the recognition of the fact, this fact.
There are, however, several scenic treks in the region of the park, right? So could you tell us a bit about trekking in the park region?
Sure. People, they do come for trekking. And there are two things for that. One is its remoteness, and other thing is that inaccessibility, There are a number of areas in the park which are still very, very inaccessible. So what we have done together, that is Dr. Tenny Gaston, who is my co-author, and myself, we have coined a term for it, and that is known as roadlessness. So this is the roadlessness, which brings strength to the park. Okay, in your area without road, then you will have to make your own effort to go into the park.
To get there, right?
The park herself is a place of veneration, and let it be there. So anybody who feels like going into the park should be in very, very nice physical health, And
Right.
consider that most of the tracks inside the park, they are from, they are from moderate to strenuous nature.
Okay.
We have defined the tracks. So there are very few tracks, which are along the gradient. Otherwise, most of them are leading from the park, that means the park boundary, onto the 4 rivers headwaters. And number 3 is Sanj, and number 4 is Tirthan. So people usually go to the headwaters of this, and this has been happening, in fact, for ages together. This has been a pilgrimage for local people.
Right.
And this is a pilgrimage for the modern tourists, or not tourists, I will say, modern travelers.
Pilgrims.
Yes.
Yeah. Lovely. Thank you for sharing, the major trekking routes in the park.
Yes.
The logo of the Great Himalayan National Park is the Western Tragopan, an endangered pheasant and a very colorful bird. Could you tell us a bit more about why this bird was chosen for the logo of the park?
Let me say something like this, though, I mean, you can see its beauty. Most of the pheasants are very, very kind of, they have splendid colors and all. They are wonderful to look at. But here is a local legend, I would like to say, from the villages, and that is this pheasant was created by the Lord, that is the God, and actually that it created by the feathers which were donated by all the birds in the jungle. Yeah. So if you see the body of the bird, then you will see these birds. So each one is actually referring to a feather of one particular bird in the forest. So that's the way. And with the help of these feathers, God created this particular bird.
The Tragopan.
This Western Tragopan. In local language, local people, they call it Juju Rana. Juju means bird, and Rana is king. So it is king of the bird. Yeah. And other thing is that local taxonomy is very strong for this bird. Like the world over distribution of the bird, it starts from the Kinnaur area of Himachal Pradesh, runs through Kinnaur, and then into Rampur area, where it is known as Jayas. In Kinnaur area, it is known as Pyara, right? Rampur, when you reach Kullu, this is known as Jujurana. In Kangra also, it is known as Jujurana. As you go further up in Chamba, it is known as it is known as Fulgar. And adjoining GNK area, again it is known as Fulgar, and very small part of POK, where the world over distribution ends. That is also there. Also, it is known as Fulgar. So this is actually very, very endemic species. Red data.
This region.
Yeah. Red data means the IUCN Red Data book listed bird.
Yes.
So that is
of endangered.
State bird of Himachal Pradesh and logo of Great.
Lovely. Yes, thank you for sharing these fascinating details of the local folklore as well. And I can see someone has written a comment saying, "Sir, how about such information compiled in a book for children in future?" So
even children, you can also refer to the book. Why not? Yeah.
Yeah. Sure. And maybe there's a potential, potential children's book there. The tale of the Tragopan. You have mentioned in your book that the Great Himalayan Range forms a significant divide, and north of the range, the climate, the flora and fauna is more similar to that of the Eurasian region. And south of the range, the flora and fauna is more similar to that found in South and Southeast Asia. So, for example, you mentioned the leopard is found to the south of the range, but to the north of the range, you will find the snow leopard. So can you tell us a bit more about how significant this divide is of the Great Himalayan Range?
Oh, it's very, very significant. This is known as actually biogeographic zones of the world. Our planet. Yeah. So and thereby the barrier of this Great Himalayan range,
Mountain.
you know, on the north, where you said ki we have snow leopard, that is the area which is known as Palearctic. Okay,
Palearctic.
Palearctic area has very distinct animals and plants, right? Like you have snow leopard there, you have ibex over there. You have number of birds which are found in that area. You have number of plants which are found in that area. And then, you know, across Himalayas, and you have Oriental zone. Oriental zone is actually the plains of our country, basically.
Yes.
The country itself is a subcontinent, right? So,
true.
Yes. So out here, you have like common leopard. You do not have, you know, in Oriental zone, you do not have snow leopard.
Snow leopard,
Because snow leopard is confined to the cold climates.
Colder, yes.
And that is actually found in the Palearctic zone. Or Eurasian or Central Asian, like Mongolia and all. Right? Ibex, like ibex, you can find in Pyrenees, in France.
Yes.
Or you can
it's a mountain goat.
Yes. This is mountain goat. Exactly.
Yes.
So that is the great divide, you know, that these animals, they are divided by this. And not even animals, they are plants also. This is a very big subject, in fact. And they are birds also. Yes.
Right. Yeah. Really fascinating. So one can see clearly distinct types of flora and fauna in the Great Himalayan National Park, no, because of this divide.
And it represents actually both. Because the Great Himalayan National Park, the upper region is Palearctic. And the lower, which is actually subtropical area of Great Himalayan National Park, you know, there you can see the Oriental elements of flora. Like you can see common leopard. So the Great Himalayan National Park represents both. You know, so that is how the representativeness actually, that, in one area you can see that both the things, both the elements mingling.
A very unique feature indeed. Yeah.
That is very unique feature.
Yes.
These are known as basically transition zones.
Yes, from one geographical zone to another.
Oriental to Palearctic. Yes.
Your book also beautifully describes the changing seasons and their impact on the flora and fauna of the region. So if you could tell us a bit about that as well.
Oh, that is great. Something great about this, about the park. So I just have to note it in my book. You know, like they say, to everything there is a season, you know.
True.
Christian friends, they say, so to everything there is a season. And so is here. You know, what happens out here? So you go to the park, virtually there is hardly any season, including the winters. You know, when it is deep snow and all, that time it is not there. When the flowers are not there. You know, so much so. Let me give you a nice example of Brahma Kamal or Sasonia species. Brahma Kamal, which is found around 4,000 meters height. You know, that is about 12 to 14 or 15,000 feet. You know, so this Brahma Kamal, it is very unique flowering. Like when everybody else, you know, among the flowers or flowering plants, they are trying to get ready for autumn season. They are preparing for autumn season to come in. This guy will start flowering, you know.
Remarkable. Amazing.
In one example, I would like to say that, it is supposed to be very sacred, very auspicious. Yes.
True.
Then there are number of plants like primulas, which are there. I mean, number of primulas are there, you know, and in different shades. There are flowers which are, you know, on the rocks, like Virginias, you know, so Virginias you will see there, right? There are flowers in the crevices, you know, there are flowers which are actually, you know, of meadows. So, so all these things they put together, you know, they are just wonderful. So, like you have Valley of Flowers, so here in Great Himalayan National Park, it has its own Valley of Flowers. Virtually, I mean, impatience. There is a flower called impatience. You know, they are pastures and pastures, meadows and meadows put together. You know, So like that.
Okay.
Yeah. So you go there, you'll see it red, virtually red over there or pinkish over there. Because in patients, they come in many, many shades. Right?
Yeah. So it's like a carpet of flowers in a way. Yeah.
Exactly. Exactly.
Yeah.
Or anemones. That can make a white carpet. Yes.
Yeah. And
Or
I must say your book,
marigolds. Yeah.
yeah, your book has many lovely pictures of the flowers in the park as well. So
Exactly. Yeah.
the harvesting of the park's natural resources was a source of livelihood for the local people. And when the park was created, there were some issues with local people probably not being allowed to enter the park. And you've even mentioned an incident where your effigy was burnt by the local people. So can you tell us how you got through those challenging times?
Actually, that was a time when I joined Park, in fact, as director of the park. And that was the time when the final notification of the park was to take place. That means once a park is finally notified, then nobody is allowed under Indian Wildlife Protection Act to enter the park. And the people's rights and concessions which are there, they are bought by the government.
Right.
So something like around 2 crore rupees were paid as compensation to all those people who had rights and concessions in the park. So the effigy and all, that burning part was not by the local people. That was actually by the local herb dealers or contractors.
Oh, okay.
Because they were denied of that. There was a very vicious kind of a thing to happen, and that was happening over there. That these local contractors were, giving some sort of loans or whatsoever, or some very small amount of money to the local people who had their rights and concessions in the park. 1999, and they were going into the park collecting the herbs.
Right.
So, and they were being paid hardly anything.
Yeah.
They were being exploited. So once these contractors things they ended in the park, then they were the ones who were doing it. Yeah.
Right. So it's like a local contractor mafia who were.
Exactly. You are using the word mafia. I think I will agree to that. So the local people, actually for them, we were trying to do number of activities so that their dependence on the park is compensated not only by one-time compensation of Sarkar, but by continuous income generation activities. That I think you can ask me when you proceed with your question.
That brings me to my next. It brings me to my next question actually, because you've described how the local women were organized into self-help and microcredit groups, and how they were then able to generate income and so forth. And that led to their supporting the park as well. So could you tell us more about how the local population was involved in conservation?
So this was very much actually gender specific in the sense that because of these contractors and local mafia and all, we were not in any position of talking to the gents of the families,
Okay.
So what we did, we started working with the women. So, So from among us, the women, we chose one lady who became a group organizer. So she will go to the to various households, and specifically to those households whose gents were earlier than 1999 were going into the park, collecting herbs. So those who were dependent on the park for their livelihoods, they were actually, collected in kind of a survey. And the women folks of those households, they were brought in under income generation activities, So there we worked with their money only. Like they were saving 1 rupee daily, and put it together.
Microcredit.
Microcredit, and put it together. Then whenever the money reaches to a point that it can be reinvested, then we initiate things like vermicomposting, so that women create vermicompost in their homes, and the
Right.
park staff, we had to talk to my own staff, that park staff will buy that. So the
Right.
park itself becomes a market.
Right.
You know,
Yes.
so
They can
then-
sell their products to the park.
Yes,
Yeah.
exactly. And
Yeah.
in the third or fourth year, what happened that these male members of these households, when their anger was, subsided a bit, then we started initiating them into eco-tourist guides, ecotourism guide. Yeah.
Yes.
So all these people who were coming as trekkers to the park, you
Yes.
know,
Yeah.
so they will go with them and they will start earning.
Right.
Yeah.
Yes.
And along with that, we did one more thing that you used in the beginning of my interview, the word called founded. So I did not found the park anywhere. I mean, this is a government thing. But we certainly founded a informal group of such individual who love the beauty of the park, whether
The
they
friends
are
of
Indian or they are foreigners. So we founded a group called Friends of Great Himalayan
the
National
Great Himalayan Park. Yes. Yeah.
And with this, actually, the Friends of Great Himalayan National Park, they are Americans also, they are Europeans also, they are Indians also. Number of people from, these people are like our Bengalis or Gujaratis, they really like to venture
Travel.
around. Yeah. And even Americans and all wealthy ones.
Yes.
They come to the park, and these people who had been trained as guides, porters, or or cooks, they will accompany them, and they will earn very good money.
Yes. Yeah.
Even if the number of tourists is very, very low.
But it helps the local people then earn a living and gives them a reason to continue supporting the continued existence of the park.
So these are two examples I have given. Otherwise, there are a number of them, like auto production by the civil credit groups, making of handicrafts, arranging for their marketing, etc., etc. So we became, marketing people for them. We opened shops in Manali or in Kulu, so that their things can be marketed.
Right.
Those kind of things we did, yes.
Wonderful. And so good to know that, this sort of rural entrepreneurship has been developed there. That capacity has been built in the local population.
Yes.
Grazing by livestock, by migrant communities of Gujars and Gaddis also has had an important impact on the ecosystem of the region. So could you tell us something about that as well?
Actually, if we talk about grazing in terms of law, then none of the graziers, though there were something like more than 20,000 sheep and goats were entering park every year, but none of them had a valid permit. They were never given any concession or right. Rights and concessions, they are mentioned in a settlement report, forest settlement report, which were made long time back. So it is heritage. Yeah. So whosoever is alive, from that lineage, so they will be inheriting that right. So so that way, and there were no Gujars. There were no Gujars at all. Yeah, in the park.
So you mention them in your book.
Yes. So these were Gaddis basically. So these Gaddis, actually the Gujars who are mentioned in the book, they are mentioned for the neighboring valleys where they used to go, and they are still going. Not in the valleys which have become like these four valleys. Yeah, Parvati, Sanj, Jivanal, and Tirthan valleys. There were no Gujars. So out here, these Gaddis and all, we started trying to give them alternate sites for grazing. And alternate routes also, to take sheep and goats. So, yes. So, and as the time moves, most of the shepherds or these Gaddis, they are now settling down. So it is very true for Chamba area, from where they originally they come, or Kanpur area, or even Kullu area. So slowly, hardly anybody, likes to go around with your sheep and all. So,
Right.
so that practice is dying down on its own.
Okay.
Yes, please.
You've also mentioned sacred groves and the role of the deodar tree, the Cedrus deodara. And so can you tell us a bit more about how the sacred groves have tied into the conservation movement there?
Actually, what we say that sacred groves, they themselves are local people's national parks. But they are very
How
small.
lovely. Yes.
Yeah,
Yeah.
they're very small.
Yeah.
Yeah, and these are the people who have been conserving that area for ages together,
Yes.
and they are very sacred. There is a Nagini forest,
Okay.
which is in the park's ecozone. It is about 6 hectares, and if you see the pictures given in the book of this particular forest, you will see
Yes.
very old trees of yew.
Yes.
Yew, the Texas. Yeah.
Yes. Yes.
So, yeah. So later on, the pharmaceutical industry found out that this is the yew tree, the bark and leaves from the yew, out of which you make this cancer-saving drug called
Yes.
Taxol.
Yeah.
The tree
Taxol.
itself is known as Taxus baccata. So
Right.
the drug is known as Taxol.
Taxol. Yes.
No, but this has been preserved by these local people for ages together.
Amazing. Yeah.
So, but as we see, because of so much of industrialization, so much of urbanization, so much of even, agriculture
Deforestation.
being acquired,
Yes.
what is now happening, that the government is establishing these national parks, which are very big in size. Like Great Himalayan National Park, the conservation area, which is about 905 square kilometer long, and without any habitation.
Amazing.
And let me give this opportunity. Let me take this opportunity. I'm asking you to give me this opportunity to see that this is not Great Himalayan National Park as such. On the north of this, there is yet another one, which is known as Khir Ganga National Park.
Yes.
On the eastern side, there is Pin Valley National Park. On the southeast side, the Pin Valley National Park. Then southeast side, there is Rupi Baba Wildlife Sanctuary.
Yes.
All these areas put together, they are all protected areas. What is happening out here? That we have a very big compact area of something like 3,000 square kilometer. Nowhere you can find that area in Western Himalayas, Northwestern Himalayas. So this is a representative which can, preserve the gene pool for all the post.
Yeah. And the biodiversity of that region.
Yes, please. Despite all our knowledge, we have not studied the biological diversity of, the northwestern Himalayas. Very minuscule we have done so far.
Very true. And there may be so many more medicinal plants and herbs there of which we do not even know, their properties at this point. Yeah.
Exactly.
So it's a very precious resource that's been created and preserved. Thanks also to your efforts.
In case you want to hear it, then how Corona is coming. This is actually disturbance to the nature.
Right.
The wet markets. What is happening over there? The viruses are mutating. And Great Himalayan Park or any national park or any sacred area is actually the zone where nature is preserving millions, innumerable viruses and bacteria. We do not disturb them.
Absolutely.
If every time we think of a jungle or a forest and we think of, let us take a road over there and we should build some industry over there or urbanize it, then you know what will happen, what is happening at the moment. We are sitting in our homes and virus is there.
Very true. All around us. Yeah.
Yeah.
Um,
Though it is
since you've since you've mentioned the pandemic, what is the impact of this on the park itself? Because at this point in time, I guess tourism would have stopped.
So as I told you, park is flourishing anyway. Park is flourishing.
The park
Yeah,
is flourishing, right?
flourishing.
Yeah.
Haven't you seen pictures? Animals are coming onto the roads, yeah.
Yes, yes,
You
true,
see
true.
somewhere in Chandigarh, yeah, on the roads.
Yes, yes, true,
Yeah,
true.
you can
Yeah,
see that cat, civet cat,
right.
you know,
Yeah, yeah,
in Kerala, right on the road. It's a very, very
yeah,
endangered animal. You know, so that is it. Only thing
yes.
is that human beings are not there. So nature is rejoicing anyway. So whenever we go to the nature, we have
Yes,
to have a lot of respect for the nature.
very
In
true.
case
Yeah.
we say this word social distancing, it is anyway, nowadays it is required among human beings, but it is
Yes,
also required between human beings and nature.
right. Yes. No, it's a very valuable message that you shared there, sir. Thank you for sharing that. Yeah. Um, on another note, the park is home to the Himalayan brown bear. Now, in recent years, scientists have concluded that the mythical animal, the Yeti, might actually be sightings of the Himalayan brown bear, in the midst of fog and snow, and then people have come up with the story of the Yeti. So, what are your thoughts on this?
Okay, for that I will refer to a very nice book by Prater. You know, Prater has written a long time back, about maybe 80, 90 years back, a book called The Indian Animals, and in there he has described the nature of brown bear.
Okay.
There are two kinds of bears in Great Himalayan National Park. But in India we have third kind also, and I think three. Yeah. So one is this brown bear, and then in the middle of the Great Himalayan National Park we have black bear.
Black,
Himalayan
yes.
bear. So brown bear relatively is gentler nature,
Okay, okay.
not like black bear. Black bear, if it sees a lone human being, it may come charging, onto you.
Okay,
So
it might attack, is
you
it?
should
Okay.
be more careful about the bears rather than a leopard, in
Okay,
the
okay.
or in a jungle.
Right, okay.
So that is what I have learned from Prater. But in case you consider brown bear, then it is gentle in nature. It will go away from the side, and you can see like humans they do. You can see the brown bear shuffling between the rocks. And are trying to look for ants below the rocks.
Okay.
Or
So it's standing upright and so forth.
Yeah. So that it can do. That it can do. Yeah, but it's very rare. But I think this is the gentler nature of brown bear, because people also consider Yeti as gentler in nature.
Yes,
So
it's considered a gentle giant. Yeah. So perhaps, therefore, then this mythical creature has come about because of this. I think we're coming to the end of the session, so I have a final question for you, sir. What are your thoughts on the future of the park? Are you hopeful about the future and the conservation and continued success of the park?
Yes, I am very much hopeful to the future of the park. In India, usually it is done through the ages of government. Like there is a director appointed and all. So things keep on changing. Like the kind of model I started with the Women Saving Credit Group may not continue, or may be further strengthened by the next directors and all. So it depends actually who comes. So I would like to say something very important, that this is actually the civil society. This is actually the local people who are living next to the park. So let me again go back to the geography of the park. The northern area of the park, the eastern area of the park, And the southern area of the park, as I have already indicated, these national parks and all, it is very well protected.
Okay.
And it is very well protected by very high ridges and valleys as well. You know,
Right. Yeah.
deep valleys. So,
Yeah.
so the park is very well protected on its north, east, and southern side. But on the western side, there are these people who are living over there. So we have to make people as friends of the park.
Right. Yes.
For
Yeah.
them, there has to be a policy change, you know.
Okay.
Like I have mentioned in my book, I think that is the last chapter of the book, and that I consider the most important chapter, though it has very few pages over there. And there we have used, me and my co-author, let conservation pay. That means we should have such policies of conservation whereby people can make money.
Right. The local people
Because
particularly.
people can make money, they get alternative sources of income.
Yes. Yeah.
So it may come from the park itself, you know.
Right. As tourism, guides.
Yeah,
Yes.
guides or like you know, strengthening of very nice buffer zone around the park.
Right. Right.
Yeah,
Yes.
which is about 250 square kilometer, which is a very big area. So there you can do all sorts of strengthening of local plantations, you know, like we were talking about deodar trees and all. You can do a number of things. You can bring in people within the fold of your conservation effort.
Right. Yeah.
If you do one singular thing, that is, you bring in people in your conservation efforts, you can do it. You can keep the park for ages together. So it has to be people centric. It should never be. It should never be engineer centric. Engineers who make dams, engineers who make roads.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
No,
So
that's a wonderful conservation message.
Yes, please.
That you've given there about involving the local people and involving, you know, the friends of the park to ensure the continued success of the park. Yeah.
Yes.
So let me thank you, Mr. Pandey, for sharing your time with us, for sharing your insights on the park, and for sharing these wonderful stories and anecdotes about the park. So once again, let me recommend our viewers beautiful book, The Great Himalayan National Park. And do read it, and hopefully when the lockdown is over, we will be able to travel and visit the park again.
Let me also show it.
Thank you, sir.
Let me say one thing before we end the conversation.
Please.
That is all the proceeds of the purchase from this book. They do not come to me. They go for the conservation of park. Okay. Both the authors have donated our royalties, okay?
Yes, yeah. You're true friends of the park indeed, and champions of the environment. So let me wish you and your co-author long life, good health, and more books to come, hopefully.
So nice of you. Thank you very much.
Well, thank you, sir. It's been a pleasure talking to you, and I hope we can speak again soon. Thank you.
So nice of you. Thank you so much. Very nice being.
Thank you.